Part 72. My evil Imperial wife is too arrogant, trash against the world, BlackBelly evil wife is too arrogant. Author, Lan by Gezi. Chapter 711. 3 days later, the Feng family held a family recognition banquet. The families invited to attend this time are all first-class and second-class families that usually have a good relationship with the Feng family. Usually, top powers are not invited to such family gatherings. But this time, the Feng family invited the mercenary union. After all, it is well known that Lum Wen joined the mercenary union. Although Ming Xiu represented the royal family of the underworld, everyone knew that he was Lum Wen's fiancé, so everyone else felt that it was only natural for him to come. Among them, a few strong people who merged with the heaven and human realm were friends of the ancestors of the Feng family. They came to the meeting place and left with the ancestors of the Feng family. After this banquet, all the big and small clan forces in the entire human domain knew that there were two more direct descendants of the Feng family surnamed Lu, and they were highly valued by the Feng family, because even the ancestors of the Feng family who had not shown up for many years came out to support them in person. After the ancestor of the Feng family brought the top experts to the Zizu forest, he took out the spirit wine brewed by Lum Wen to show off. How about you try these 8th-grade spirit wine? He poured a glass of 8th-grade spirit fruit and 1000-year-old royal jelly for each person. Those few people didn't care at first. After all, they could buy 8-pin spirit wine from 11 Zalo or other 8-pin spirit wine masters, but after tasting it, their eyes lit up. The 8th-grade spirit wine brought out by the ancestors of the Feng family is very pure, with a sweet and cold taste, and an excellent taste. Old Phoenix. You are too unkind. Such a delicious spirit wine has been hidden and tucked, and now it is brought out to invite us to drink. An old man in white complained while savoring the taste of spirit wine. Another old man in golden clothes also nodded and complained, that's right, this kind of spirit wine should have been brought out for everyone to taste together. The other three also responded, and the movements in their hands were also very fast, and a pot of wine was finished in a short while. This spirit wine was only brewed by my family's cigarette girl. Once it is brewed, I will invite you to come and taste it. You are too embarrassed to complain, the ancestor of the Feng family said angrily. However, the smile between his brows and the smugness in his eyes could not be concealed. Yan girl? Is that the little girl that your Feng family recognized her relatives this time? The old man in white asked incredulously. The ancestor of the Feng family smiled and said, yes, she is not only an 8th-grade spirit wine master, but also an 8th-grade alchemist. What? I think her bone age is only 20 years old, the old man in golden clothes said in surprise. After reaching the fusion upper realm, he can see the age of the other party without touching his bones, and he can directly find out how old he is. He had accidentally seen Lum Wen's bone age before. Nonsense, she is a peerless genius of our Feng family, and she is also proficient in refining tools, formations, talismans, and beast control. The ancestor of the Feng family looked stunned. What kind of bad luck did your Feng family have? Another black-clothed old man said enviously. You can recognize such a peerless genius when you recognize a relative, no wonder you call us old guys. Come to the party, you are obviously here to show off. Not other techniques, just relying on the 20-year-old 8th-grade alchemist and 8th-grade spirit wine master are enough to shock these reclusive old guys. That girl is really the one who brewed this spirit wine. The golden-robed old man picked up another pot of spirit wine and poured a glass, and found that it was another flavor. Obviously the brewing materials were different. The patriarch of the Feng family rolled his eyes at him and said, when did I tell a lie? He changed his mind and said, if you don't believe me, I can prove it. How to prove it? The old man in white asked. The ancestor of the Feng family smiled and said, I asked Yan girl to come here to brew it for you to see, but you elders should give me a gift. You old man, didn't we give you the gift just now? The old man in white said angrily. Previously, it was just a ceremony for recognizing relatives, but now it's a ceremony for watching winemaking. The ancestor of the Feng family had an expression that you would like to see. If you don't want to see it, forget it. You old man who wants to extort us, just say it, and come back. The old man in golden clothes laughed and said, call that girl, it's rare to have a good time. It's just a greeting. As long as she really has the ability to convince us, we can give you some good things. Okay, the ancestor of the Feng family immediately sent Lum Wan over by voice transmission. After a while, Lum Wan and Ming Xiu came to the purple bamboo forest together. Mu Yan/Ming Xiu has met all the seniors. Exemption. The old man in white looked at Lum Wan with a smile and said, little girl, your ancestor said you can make 8th grade spirit wine. Reporting to the senior, the junior can indeed make 8th grade spirit wine. Lum Wan replied with a slight smile. I have some spirit fruits and spirit grasses that are specially made for 8th grade spirit wine. You can brew a few pots of spirit wine and let's taste one or two. The old man in white paused and said, your ancestor said that you can brew it in public. System. Girl Yan, despite your performance in these seniors, they will give you a big gift when you brew spirit wine. The ancestor of the Feng family waved a big hand and smiled. Lum Wan was not hypocritical, took the spirit grass and spirit fruit provided by the old man in white with a smile, took out the brewing thing, and began to brew it in public. The spiritual fruit provided by the old man was not suitable for adding Millennium Royal Jelly, so she did not waste it. When Lum Wan was brewing spirit wine, the old man in golden clothes looked at Ming Xiu and joked, stinky boy, why didn't you abduct your daughter-in-law back to our royal family, but instead you cheapened this old thing? Ming Xiu reluctantly touched his nose, smiled and replied, I really want to kidnap, but my wife's family is here, so I can't run away if I want to kidnap. The golden-robed old man gave him an angry look, no promise. Ming Xiu smiled and replied, Ancestor Huang, being able to marry a daughter-in-law like Yanner is already my greatest ability. The old man in golden clothes choked, stinky boy, no wonder your father said that you had a daughter-in-law and forgot your father. I think you have a daughter-in-law and even your surname is about to be forgotten. I'm still surnamed Ming. Ming Xiu smiled innocently. Haha, if he wants to become a family member of our Feng family, we are very happy to accept it, the ancestor of the Feng family said with a cheerful smile. The old man in golden clothes glared at him, you old man thinks beautifully, let the stinky boy come to the door, his short-guarded old man has to hit the door of your Feng family. As long as he is willing, we will accept it. The ancestor of the Feng family raised his eyebrows and said, I am afraid that the kid from Emperor Ming will not be successful. They are all strong people who integrate the realm of heaven and man. Even if his strength is not as high as the unfathomable Hades, it is not easy for Hades to defeat him. The spirit wine is ready. When the two were arguing, Lum Wan immediately offered the brewed spirit wine, which resolved their discussion about whether Ming Xiu was willing to be a son-in-law. My evil imperial wife is too arrogant, trash against the world, BlackBelly evil wife is too arrogant. Author, Lan by Gezi. Chapter 712. Lum Wan brought the brewed spirit wine that had been chilled, and the fragrant and mellow aroma of the wine was scattered everywhere, and the eyes of several strong men lit up. The old man in golden clothes poured a glass first, took a sip, and said, good wine. This time, the spirit wine brewed by Lum Wan did not add 1,000-year-old royal jelly, so she adjusted the alcohol to a relatively high degree. Although it was easy to feel slightly drunk, it was very fond of the old alcoholic. Several other people also poured a glass each, and after drinking, they said, good wine, good wine. The spirit wine brewed by the little girl is actually much purer than those old things in Zizalo that are dragged like 250. It makes people unable to bear the aftertaste, the old man in white admired. The golden-clothed old man smiled happily and gave Ming Xiu a praising wink, haha, that stinky boy is not bad, I found this daughter-in-law well. If anyone in the royal family dares to oppose you, the old man will support you. He knew that there were several stubborn old people in the clan who asked the heirs of the royal family to marry the women of the first-class families who were related to the royal family of the underworld palace, especially for Mingxiu, the most precious son of the underworld emperor. That's right, my vision is stronger than my talent, and the daughter-in-law I'm looking for is naturally the best. Mingxiu smiled shyly, and said domineeringly, if anyone dares to oppose us, there is no need for the emperor to take action. I can also make it worse for him to die. Okay, as expected of the old man's great-grandson, those old people are sometimes too stubborn, and it's time to blow their arrogance. The old man in golden clothes and Mingxiu were the same, domineering and arrogant. Most of the power of the imperial family of the underworld is in the hands of the underworld emperor and his cronies, but 1/3 of the authority is still controlled by the elders of the independent royal family. This is a drawback that has persisted for thousands of years. He knew that the current Hades wanted to clean up the group of old guys who only knew how to eat rice and not work, but chose to pick and choose. He is the grandfather of Emperor Hades, and naturally he wants to stand on the side of his grandson. The grandson obeys the instructions of the ancestor of the emperor. Mingxiu smiled. Recently, those old people want to marry the women of the Feng family or the Mu family. After he goes back this time, he will definitely give them some color to see, and then release the trump card of Huangbaozu. Anyway, it is unnecessary. The group of stubborn elders of your royal family should really be rectified. Many of the scoundrels in Zhongzhou city are their descendants, the old man in white interjected. The ancestor of the Feng family also agreed and said, if those immortal things dare to attack my smoke girl, I have to go to the door to see one and beat the other. Lu Muan looked at the domineering and arrogant ancestor of the Feng family with a smile on his brows and eyes, and his heart was warm. I will protect my woman, Ancestor Feng, don't worry, Mingxiu replied. The old man in golden clothes gave Mingxiu an angry look. Stinky boy, you don't need a free thug, you're an idiot. He said that, but in his heart he liked a great-grandson like Mingxiu very much. He was domineering and courageous. Ancestor Feng is also my elder, so why should I trouble him? Mingxiu smiled amiably and kindly. Stinky boy, I really forgot my father and my ancestors when I had a daughter-in-law. The old man in golden clothes glared at Mingxiu. Ha ha. The ancestor of the Feng family laughed a few times with great pleasure. Lu Muan's brewing skills convinced several of the top powerhouses in the mainland present, so they all gave Lu Muan a gift. After the golden-robed old man gave Lu Muan a gift, Mingxiu leaned over and said with a smile, Ancestor Huang, this is my daughter-in-law and your great-grandson-in-law, shouldn't you give another gift by yourself? I heard that you got the essence of wind fluorite in the early years. Your great-grandson-in-law is just about to refine a wind element magic weapon of her own destiny. You should do your best. Mingxiu continued, playing a rogue. The old man in golden clothes choked and gave Mingxiu a stern look. You stinky brat, you know everything I have, why don't you see you filial piety to me? I will be filial to your old age together with your great-granddaughter-in-law in the future. Mingxiu smiled and said, you don't even think that with this great-grandson-in-law, you will still be short of spirit wine. When you are old, you can swagger and ignore the old 8th grade spirit wine master in the underworld palace. The old guys in 11th Zalo want to blackmail your baby again. You can also directly slap your face, Mingxiu urged. His father-in-law was an alcoholic, and he would definitely let his daughter-in-law make wine in the future, and not extort more things. His daughter-in-law was not at a disadvantage. Humph, you still have a little conscience for this stinky boy. The old man in golden clothes snorted, but there was a smile in his eyes. In the future, he will use the spirit wine brewed by his great-grandson-in-law to slap in the face of those old things who often want to extort his treasure. The old guy who has lived for thousands of years is not as good as his 20-year-old great-grandson-in-law, and they are embarrassed. Pull out. He took out a few silver stones with a white light liquid in the middle and threw them to Mingxiu. Stinky boy, take them to show your hospitality. Mingxiu rudely took the things and immediately stuffed them into Lu Muan, Daughter-in-law, take it, this is a gift from our ancestors. Lum Wan couldn't help but twitch the corners of her mouth and put it away in a funny way. It was the first time she had seen such a thick-skinned cultivator. Many thanks to the old ancestor, she smiled cleverly and said as she looked at the old man in golden clothes. The old man in golden clothes pursed his beard with satisfaction. The little girl is very well behaved and lovable, this great-grandson-in-law has recognized it. Then he turned to look at Ming Xiu and said, Stinky boy, if you don't marry someone back, I'm still waiting for my great-grandchildren. Lum Wan smiled speechlessly without an interface. Ming Xiu smiled helplessly and said, I think so, but now is not the time. The patriarch of the Feng family gave the old man in golden clothes a white look. Don't make up your mind, you old man, my smoke girl will stay for a few more years before she gets married. Lum Wan's brother and sister's cheap father hasn't come yet, so how could they possibly get married? You two old people, just show off in front of us, several other old men snorted dissatisfiedly. I wondered why the stinky boy in their family didn't have such a vicious vision as Ming Xiu to find a good daughter-in-law to come back. Otherwise, they will not be short of spirit wine to drink in the future. Just be jealous, the golden-robed old man laughed proudly. The ancestor of the Feng family glanced at him and said, Girl Yan hasn't married yet, don't be too proud of yourself, you old man. Haha, it's a matter of sooner or later. The old man in golden clothes looked at the others with envy and hatred. After he goes back, he will definitely go to the place of the 8th grade spirit sommelier in the royal family to raise his eyebrows once, but that old thing often doesn't give him face. Humph, is the 8th grade spirit sommelier amazing? His great-granddaughter-in-law might be a Japan spirit wine master in the future. Several strong men left after dividing up the 8th grade spirit wine brewed by Lum Wan. During the last period of his stay in the Feng family, Lum Wan gathered all the sommeliers in the clan to guide him personally. 2 senior 6th rank brewers successfully stepped into the 7th rank, and they were able to make the senior members of the Feng family better happy. When the 3-month deadline came, Lum Wan also set foot on the road to the mercenary union. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. My evil imperial wife is too arrogant, trash against the world, BlackBelly evil wife is too arrogant. Author, Lan by Gezi. Chapter 713. Ming Xiu stayed with Lum Wan until he returned to Zhongzhou City before they separated. Lu Muting, Wu Nuan, Murong Qing and the others joined together and continued to take on the task to reach the level of the Mufeng mercenary group. With an edict, Lum Wan found the mercenary union headquarters in Zhongzhou City. Miss Lu, please come with me. As soon as she stepped into the mercenary union, a beautiful woman greeted her with a smile, apparently waiting for a long time. Okay, Lum Wan nodded with a smile. She followed the heroine through the hall, bypassed several corridors, and entered the deepest room. There is a teleportation formation in the room, which is guarded by 2 old people from the Danyuan realm. Miss Lu is a new core disciple of the Central Hall. I will take her to the Central Hall to report. The woman looked at the 2 and said. Yes, the 2 immediately took out dozens of mid-grade spirit stones and embedded them in the formation to start the teleportation. Lum Wan walked out of the teleportation array and saw a flowery garden all around. There was a lake in the distance on the left, and a waterfall in the distance on the right. From time to time, there were people passing by. There is a majestic palace not far away, simple and sacred. She followed the woman all the way into the hall. There were many people coming and going in the hall at this time. They all looked at Lum Wan with curious eyes, but they were not surprised by her arrival. They didn't stop but went straight to the 3rd floor. When the figures of the 2 disappeared in the lobby on the 1st floor, many people gathered together to whisper and discuss. That's Lum Wan, the champion of the alchemy competition. Yeah, The last time I went to the Alchemy arena to watch it, it was too far away. I found it more beautiful when I saw it up close. We can have a good relationship with such a young 8th grade alchemist in the future. That is, the core disciples in the central hall of the Pill Tower asked them to make alchemy, and they all pretended to be dragged to the sky. I hope junior sister Lu can be more approachable, so that they can also trade alchemy with her in the future. Junior sister Lu looks very gentle and hearty to me. The last time I saw her rescue the few people at the alchemy conference, she was the most approachable, and she didn't look like the others who were unattainable at all. I also think that junior sister Lu is not only beautiful, but also a good person. Although Lu Muan had left the hall, her mental strength was strong, so she basically listened to the discussion about her. A slight arc was raised on her lips. It seemed that the people in the mercenary union were not bad, at least most of them seemed to welcome her to join. When they reached the only room on the 3rd floor, the beautiful woman knocked on the door. "Come in," a loud voice sounded. Lu Muan followed the beautiful woman and pushed in the door, only to see a middle-aged man with burly yellow hair sitting inside, with an Yukian and the 3 standing in front of him. The yellow-haired middle-aged man looked up and down Lu Muan and said with a smile, "Sure enough, she is a girl with outstanding temperament. Senior has won the prize." Lu Muan's breath from the other side can tell that this person is a strong fusion in the middle realm. "I am the hall master of the central hall of the Mercenary Trade Union and Rong Liao, the vice chairman of the Mercenary Trade Union. From now on, I will be responsible for your arrangements in the Mercenary Trade Union." Rong Liao smiled kindly and did not use his power. What's the downfall of pressure? Lu Muan also found that although the other party was big and 3 thick, he had a natural affinity. Mu Yan will follow the arrangement of the hall master. These are your 3 senior brothers. You have known each other before, so I won't introduce them anymore. Rong Liao paused and said with a smile, "The 3 of them completed the mission of the inspector after successfully recruiting you to join the mercenary union, and now they will also practice with you in the central hall." "Then do I also accept the mission of the inspector?" Lu Muan asked curiously. "It stands to reason that the disciples who enter the central hall must be inspected and completed in 2 to 5 years to complete some inspection and recruitment tasks. But you don't have to. You just skipped ordinary disciples and became core disciples." Rong Liao continued, "President thinks that you don't need to do the inspection and tempering. What awaits you is a more difficult assessment task. Are you afraid?" He turned his head and looked at Lu Muan with deep eyes. Lu Muan chuckled, her eyes firm and fearless. "I like challenging difficult tasks the most." "Very good, having a heart that is not afraid of difficulties and forging ahead is a good start." Rong Liao was quite satisfied with Lu Muan's answer. "Then what do I need to do now?" Lu Muan asked. "Now you need to familiarize yourself with the central hall and the rules of the central hall, and then wait for the opening of the comprehension tower." Rong Liao said, "During this time, I will let an Yukian and 3 people familiarize you with the central hall and arrange your training. Matter. Of course, you are also a special existence. Once you enter the central hall, you belong to the core disciple, so your authority is comparable to that of an Yukian and the others, and you are qualified to meet me directly." Rong Liao handed Lu Muan a badge representing the core disciple of the central hall and said, "Little girl, you are welcome to join us." Lu Muan took the badge with both hands and buttoned it on his shirt, and replied with a smile, "Thank you, Hall Master, I'm also honored to be able to join the mercenary union." Rong Liao nodded, "Then you should go out with the 3 of them now to get acquainted with the central hall." "Okay, let's say goodbye first." After leaving the room on the 3rd floor, an Yukian looked at Lu Muan with a gentle smile and asked, "Muan, do you want to choose a place to live or visit the central hall first?" "Let's choose a place to live first," Lu Muan replied without thinking. "Then come with us," an Yukian continued with a smile. "The central hall is divided into ordinary disciples and core disciples. The residences of ordinary disciples have been arranged by the trade union long ago, while the residences of core disciples can be fixed at a fixed location. Wherever you choose, you can choose a great hall to practice. Kindness. Muan, you are so powerful that you have quietly become an 8th rank alchemist. Xia Xuanyi had not pure thoughts about Lu Muan from the very beginning, but since she knew that she was the future of Emperor Ming, the queen concubine also had to give up her desire to pursue her. Lu Muan blinked her eyes and smiled, I'm not here to surprise you. She and the three of them have been through the adventure of life and death for half a year. They are good friends, and they speak more casually. Haha, you didn't surprise us, you just frightened us, Xia Yexuan joked. Chu 11 continued, yeah. At that time, you won the championship of the alchemy competition by refining an 8th grade intermediate level medicinal pill, which almost blinded our eyes. Lu Muan raised her eyebrows and joked, don't worry, I can help you heal if you are blind. That's right, you're still an 8th rank pharmacist. Chu 11 pouted and said, why are you so perverted? You're the pervert. Lu Muan gave him an angry look. Chu 11 laughed a few times, I'm complimenting you on your awesomeness. A few people chatted all the way and soon came to a place with abundant spiritual energy. In the distance, the great hall stood tall, each of which was shrouded in mist formed by layers of spiritual energy, which looked mysterious and unusual. This is the residence that only core disciples are eligible to live in. At present, 2/3 of them have been selected by other core disciples. You can choose an empty hall as your residence. Enyukian paused and added, each hall is equipped with the same butlers, attendants, and internal resources, it just depends on where you like to live. Okay, I'll take a look first. My evil imperial wife is too arrogant, trash against the world, BlackBelly evil wife is too arrogant. Author, Lan by Gezi. Chapter 714. Lu Muan's mind was moved, and the golden life formation plate fell into her hands. She looked down for a circle, pointed to the most remote palace in the deepest part and said, I'll choose that one. It's too far from the central area, and the spiritual energy is the thinnest place around. Should Mu Yan think about it again, and Yukian did not expect that Lu Muan would choose that palace with the array plate. Many lonely sword masters like to choose a remote place where no one else lives, but that palace is the thinnest of spiritual energy in the core disciple area, so no one has chosen it for so many years. It's okay, I'll just set up a spirit gathering array. Lu Muan smiled indifferently. She can set up an 8th rank spirit gathering array, and any hall that she chooses will definitely have more spiritual energy than the others who choose, and the palaces in remote places are relatively quiet. When the three of Enyukian heard her words, they couldn't help being stunned, and then smiled. I almost forgot, Mu Yan, that you are a high-level array mage. Enyukian said with a gentle smile, would you like Mu Yan to help my palace also set up a spirit gathering array? Okay. But the materials are provided by myself. Lu Muan smiled and nodded. Enyukian was just casually saying that he didn't expect Lu Muan to actually agree. You must know that the 8th rank array master is difficult to ask, then I'll be here to thank you first. Mu Yan, you can't favor one over another, Xia Yexuan said as though aggrieved. Lu Muan gave him a funny look and said, as long as the three of you provide the materials, I can arrange an 8th grade spirit gathering formation for your palace. I knew that Mu Yan was the best. Xia Yexuan smiled. Chu 11 also said gratefully, thank you Mu Yan. We are friends apart from being brothers and sisters, so we don't need to meet like this. Lu Muan said. By the way, tell me what rules to pay attention to in the central hall. She thought about it and asked. Enyukian replied, there are several ways to practice in the central hall. One is the gravity room provided free of charge, and everyone can go to practice in it. The other types need to exchange contribution points for time practice. Contribution points are similar to mercenary quest points, but more difficult. Xia Yexuan said, there is a dedicated contribution point management office in the central hall. If you want to accumulate contribution points, you can go there to pick up quests. Of course, The senior leaders of the regular Central Hall will also let the core disciples complete the tasks they set, and once they are completed, they will get rich rewards. Each of the core disciples in the Central Hall is the strength of Tianyuanjing. Some people are hardy and friendly, some people are more withdrawn, and some people are more sinister. You can control the depth of friendship, but our union is more than other forces. The most united. Lum Wan knew it in his eyes. By the way, the hall master said just now that I should wait for the opening of the comprehension tower. Is it time to open? It's almost next month, and Yukian replied. Have the three of you got the quota? Lum Wan asked with a wink. And Yukian smiled bitterly. That's so good, we have to go through layers of screening to get a chance. The three of them are now more envious of Lum Wan's good luck, but they are relatively strong in terms of talent and background, and they are bound to win the spot to understand the tower. Come on, I'm optimistic about you. Lum Wan was quite confident in the strength of the three. Okay, just look at us for you, we will definitely get the quota. Xia Yexuan shrugged and smiled. The few people flew while chatting, and soon arrived at the palace chosen by Lum Wan. At this time, there were already 21 people standing in a row outside the palace, headed by a beautiful woman who cultivated in the Tianyuan realm, and 20 swordsmen from the Danyuan realm standing behind her. I've seen Lord Muan, the three adults. The woman who took the lead began, and the others saluted the three of them respectfully. Lum Wan was slightly surprised. She raised her eyebrows and looked at Anyukian and asked, "This is?" Each of the core disciples of the Central Hall has a steward of the Tianyuan realm and 20 attendants, and they are at your command at any time. And Yukian said with a smile, "You can place a mental mark on them, completely preventing betrayal." Occur. Lum Wan frowned slightly. Doesn't the mental imprint mean that the life and death of these people are under her control? Xia Yexuan knew Lum Wan's temperament better, and he said to her, "They are all slaves bought by the mercenary union from the slave market in the dark market. The mercenary union provides them with worry-free living and cultivation resources. Just ask them to be loyal to every core disciple. You may feel cruel about such a thing, but these slaves entered the mercenary union voluntarily and actively. Although they lost some freedom, they did not have much danger to their lives or were enslaved and played with." Lum Wan sighed inwardly. In a world where the strong are respected, only those who possess strength have absolute right to speak and freedom. For these slaves, serving the core disciples in the mercenary union is also a way of survival. "Mr. Muan, I am the housekeeper appointed by the union for you." Luo Fei, the woman in the lead, looked at Lum Wan with a respectful smile. Lum Wan nodded, "I will trouble you in the future." Rafi replied with a smile, "Everything is what I should do. I don't have anything to do right now." "You can arrange things according to the rules of the Central Hall," Lum Wan instructed. "Yes." Lum Wan could see that Luo Fei looked young, but he was already over 100 years old, and it was the limit to be able to reach the Tianyuan realm. The three of Anyukian accompanied her around the palace, and then saw with her own eyes that she took out a set of incomparably complicated arrays and began to arrange the spirit gathering array. An hour later, Lum Wan finished setting up the spirit gathering array, and as soon as it was activated, the surrounding spiritual energy surged wildly. The aura in the palace began to gradually increase, and finally it was more than 3 times that of the previous one, more than twice as strong as the central area with the most aura outside, which shocked the three of Anyukian. They heard that the spirit gathering array can double the spiritual energy of the magician, but they did not expect Lum Wan to triple the spiritual energy. The most important thing is that the spirit gathering array arranged by Lum Wan is not domineering. She just uses the array to speed up the speed of the aura and compress it to increase the concentration of the aura. It will not change the distribution of the aura around, let alone affects the richness of aura in other people's palaces. So even if other people are envious and jealous in their hearts, they can't find fault. Anyukian's eyes lit up one by one, looking forward to the spirit gathering array that Lum Wan built for them. and the surging flow of spiritual energy also alarmed the other core disciples who stayed in the palace to cultivate. My evil imperial wife is too arrogant, trash against the world, BlackBelly evil wife is too arrogant author, Lan by Gezi. Chapter 715. The surrounding core disciples walked out of the palace one after another and looked at the remote palace with spiritual energy fluctuations in the deepest part. Then they found that although the aura was surging, it was limited to the most remote palace, and the aura of the palace they lived in was not affected. Many disciples walked towards the side hall, and when they stood not far away, they realized that there was a translucent white light covering the top of the palace. As soon as the surrounding spiritual energy entered the cover, a whirlpool would occur. This is the 8th rank spirit gathering array, one of the older men said with wide eyes. He is a rank 7 array master himself, and the palace where he lives has also set up a rank 7 spirit gathering array, but he didn't expect to see the rank 8 gathering array that he longed for a long time here. What? It turned out to be an 8th rank gathering spirit formation. A woman beside him said in surprise, "Whose residence is that? I remember that the palace was empty." "It should be the new little junior sister who chose that palace," another man said with his arms wrapped around him. He had seen Anyukian and the three of them walking with a young alluring woman towards the side hall before. Although he did not go to the alchemy competition, he could guess that the woman should be Lu Mu, who has been rumored recently. Cigarette. New little junior sister, a disciple who had just arrived here asked in surprise. "I see, it should be Lu Muan who won the alchemy competition this time. I heard that she was scrambled by several major forces, and finally grabbed by our president, and then directly promoted to the core disciple of the central hall. My God, she is not only an 8th rank alchemist, but also an 8th rank array mage. Is this talent against the sky? How do you know that she is an 8th rank array mage? Maybe someone else helped her arrange it. I just saw Anyukian and the three of them accompany her in. None of those three are magicians, and there is no one else besides her who arranges the magic. No, it's so perverted." There were more and more core disciples gathered outside, and all of them wondered if Lu Muan was an 8th rank array master. "Mu Yan, you made such a big noise, they couldn't sit still." Anyukian smiled helplessly. Lu Muan shrugged, "I can't help it, if I set up a 7th grade spirit gathering array, I can still be sure not to make any noise, but if I set up an 8th grade spirit gathering array without taking the spiritual energy of other palaces, I can only do it. Add a formation that makes time flow faster and the aura can be compressed. Can the formation speed up time?" Xia Yexuan's eyes lit up and asked, "Can that be used for cultivation?" "Not yet." Lu Muan shook her head. This formation was inherited by her and Mingxiu in the inheritance place. They also thought about using it for cultivation. Time is constantly accelerating in the formation, but the time outside remains unchanged, which is also a shortcut to cultivation. But although it is still not possible, she and Mingxiu have been studying it. She already has a feeling that she is about to touch that layer of membrane, and she may be able to study it soon. Although the three of Xia Yexuan were looking forward to it, they were not disappointed when they heard that they could not be used for cultivation. "I just said, how could there be such a sky-defying formation?" Chu 11 sighed. Lu Muan chuckled, "If one day I develop such a formation, I will help you arrange one." "Okay. It's still Mu Yan's loyalty," Xia Yexuan said with a smile. "Then let's thank Muan here first." And Yukian has always felt that Lu Muan is not only a genius, but her talent is too heaven-defying. Maybe it is possible to develop such a formation in the future. Xia Yexuan said with a smile, "Mu Yan, if you really devise such a formation that can make time flow, you will definitely be able to stir up the entire Guangling world." Lu Muan smiled indifferently, "I don't have that hobby. If she wants to study such a formation, she will only provide it to those who care. She has no interest in such a sensation and fame, and it will definitely bring endless trouble. By the way, should we first think about how to deal with people outside?" Chu 11 said helplessly. Lum Wan thought about it and said, "Don't worry about it for the time being, they will naturally disperse when they look boring. She doesn't want to have too much contact with those brothers and sisters now." After all, after joining the mercenary trade union, she was not only directly promoted to the core disciple, but also got a place to comprehend the comprehension tower without participating in the screening. Now is the time for hatred. It is better to go out less. It's not that she's afraid of causing trouble, she just doesn't want trouble, she wants to hurry up and study the formation that can speed up time in the past month. Alright, let's get along with them slowly in the future, don't worry. The three of Anyukian left shortly after, while Lum Wan began to retreat. As soon as the three of them came out, they were dragged by the core disciples who were onlookers to ask questions, but they were all put off by them. However, the news still spread like wildfire, and even the upper levels of the central hall were alarmed. Later, when someone visited Lum Wan, she was told by the housekeeper to go to retreat, and those who wanted to inquire about the news gradually rested their minds. However, there are still two elders from the central hall who often come to study the formation arranged by Lum Wan, and they are amazed every time. If it weren't for the fact that Lum Wan had placed a rank 8 restriction outside the door when she was in retreat, they would have wanted to go in and find her out for a discussion. Both of them are 8th rank array masters, and they can also set up 8th rank spirit gathering arrays, but they are not as subtle as Lum Wan's spirit gathering array. The spirit gathering array they set up will absorb all the spiritual energy around them one by one. If they are set up here, it will definitely cause public outrage. However, after studying for a month, they couldn't find the mystery of the transformation of the formation, and they were very distressed. During the month of retreat, Lum Wan resacrifices the power of the Tianfeng bloodline in his body, and his body has reached a new level of strength, and many secret techniques can be used. She knew that the arrangement of the 8th grade spirit gathering array would definitely attract the attention of others, so she deliberately avoided it. She ignored it for the time being, and while studying the formation technique, she practiced secret techniques, and she could practice all the secret techniques she knew in her previous life. Time passed, and soon a month passed. On this day, Lum Wan just succeeded in refining the longsword of the wind attribute natal magic weapon. This time, because of the suppressed spiritual power in her body, she was able to break through to the Tianyuan realm. After merging that drop of Tianfeng blood essence, the power of the spirit fire has also increased a lot. A special sound transmission penetrated into her ear, this was Anyukian's voice. "Mu Yan, the Tower of Comprehension is about to open, the Palace Master will let you come over. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. My evil imperial wife is too arrogant, trash against the world, BlackBelly evil wife is too arrogant author, Lan by Gezi. Chapter 716. Lum Wan put away the natal magic weapon of the wind attribute, sorted it out, and went to the master of the central hall. Since she moved into the palace and has not come out, many core disciples in the central hall regard her as an unusually mysterious genius. She flew in the sky with a golden long sword, her long hair fluttered in the wind, and many people cast their eyes on her from a distance, full of surprise and curiosity. After reaching the 3rd floor, Lum Wan knocked on the door. "Come in," a loud voice sounded. She pushed open the door and entered, and there was only the Rong Hall Master alone. "Little girl, you're finally willing to come out." Rong Liao smiled kindly, "It's rare for young people like you to endure loneliness and curiosity like you. I've been refining a natal magic weapon recently, so I closed in." Lum Wan smiled softly. Rong Liao showed some interest in his eyes, and said with a smile, "I heard that you are still an artifact refiner, show me the instruments you made." Lum Wan didn't hesitate, and took out the wind attribute longsword and handed it to Rong Liao. Rong Liao looked at it carefully, and gradually became addicted to it. After a while, he returned to God. Lu girl, I really didn't expect you to be able to refine an artifact. The device will be more perfect. He is an 8th grade senior artifact refiner himself, and he can't help but praise the natal artifact made by Lu Muan. If this girl's talent is not too strong, it might not take many years to catch up with him. He was accepted as an apprentice. Well, my weapon refining is the weakest among the 5 techniques, Lu Muan said with a helpless smile. Among the 5 techniques, she used the least artifact refining technique. This time, she was able to use the extraordinary refining technique to produce low-quality artifacts. It was entirely the result of her basic accumulation in the immortal cultivation world and her second understanding in the comprehension tower. Rong Liao pointed to the intricate patterns inscribed on the silver longsword and said, "The 88th level prohibitions you set in the natal instrument are perfect. I feel ashamed of such a technique, but from the overall sense, there is still some heat in the refiner. It's not that your talent is not good, or you can't improve it, or you lack experience, but you are very unfamiliar, and you can see very little when you make magic tools." Rong Liao said solemnly, "Little girl, your talent for refining tools is really strong, much stronger than many core disciples in the Central Hall who specialize in refining tools, but you neglect to strengthen your training. It's too bad already. If you spend more time on refining, you might be able to successfully advance to become an 8th grade refining master," he added earnestly. "Don't waste your good talent." "Disciple, thank the hall master for his guidance," Lu Muan replied with a modest smile. What Rong Liao said was the truth. She paid too little attention to refining the artifact. Although she performed exceptionally well this time, she could not deny that she still felt very difficult to refine the low-quality artifact. "With your talent, it is still very hopeful to comprehend the 8th floor of the refinement comprehension pagoda," Rong Liao said. "This time you have to perform well, don't hide your clumsiness. After reaching the comprehension pagoda, how much can you comprehend? How many? Everyone has a chance to enter each comprehension tower, but there is only one chance to comprehend, so you must seize it." Rong Liao still had some confidence in Lu Muan. His expectation is that Lu Muan can comprehend the 8th level in all 5 techniques, so that he should be able to rank in the top 5 among the younger generation. "Palace Master, has anyone finished understanding the 10-story tower?" Lu Muan asked curiously. Rong Liao nodded, "Yes, since the Tower of Comprehension appeared, as far as I know, there have been 6 people who have understood the 10th floor over the past 10,000 years, and they have all become the top powerhouses in the mainland without any accident. The 3 floors behind the Comprehension Tower represent not only spells, but also many secret rules. If you can step into the 8th floor, you will experience the ineffable benefits." Rong Liao said with a smile, "I realized the 9th floor in the item refining comprehension tower, and after I came out, I broke through from the 7th rank item refiner to the 8th rank. You should also have a chance to advance to the 9th rank item refiner." Lu Muan's tone was relatively certain. When she was in the Tianling continent, she went to the comprehension tower and realized that the 10-story tower represented 10 grades. If the hall master comprehends the 9th floor, it would only be a matter of time before entering the 9th grade refiner. "Yes, I have already touched the barrier of the 9th rank. I believe it will not take many years to break through to the 9th rank," Rong Liao replied confidently. "Palace Master, does the comprehension tower after the 8th floor correspond to the level of the comprehension person's spells?" Lu Muan asked in silence. "No, after the 8th floor and the level of comprehension is somewhat related, but it's not that big," Rong Liao said. "The last 3 floors are all about talent, spiritual power, and comprehension. If you can achieve all 3, the standard of a peerless genius, there is hope for comprehending the 10th level. For example, when I entered the comprehension pagoda, I was only a 7th grade item refiner, but with my persistence and love for item refining, coupled with my good talent for comprehension, I succeeded in reaching the 9th floor. Another example is a strong man who reached the 10th floor in the ArrangedMarriage tower thousands of years ago. At that time, he only had the level of an 8th rank array master. Little girl, your achievements in all 5 techniques are very high now. You only have one chance to enter the comprehension tower in Zhongzhou. You must cherish it. The effect brought by one more level of comprehension is definitely the difference between heaven and earth. And not only will it improve your spells, but it will also have innumerable benefits for your impact on the fusion realm in the future. Rong Liao paused and said with a smile, you can do it yourself. Many thanks to the hall master for telling me. Lu Muan had a somewhat grateful expression on his face. She heard that there are still many differences between the comprehension tower in Zhongzhou and the lower world. After all, one is genuine and the other is fake. When she was in Tianling continent, she only understood the 7th level, which was linked to the level of magic. However, she didn't expect that the last 3 floors of the comprehension tower in Zhongzhou had no spell level restrictions. She clenched her fists and had to work hard to reach the 8th floor. You're welcome, it's not entirely without purpose that I tell you so much, Rong Liao said bluntly. Lu Muan smiled and said, please make it clear from the hall master. Every time the comprehension tower is opened, in fact, our forces will secretly compete to see that the disciple on the other side has the highest level of comprehension. Occasionally, the strong will make bets between them to cultivate a boring life. Of course, this is also related to a secret ranking of our major forces and the distribution of some interests. The president, me and several other elders are very optimistic about you. I hope you will do your best and don't let us down. Rong Liao is not a person who likes secret calculations, so he will not point out all kinds of interests casually. He believes that Yi Lu Muan's intelligence can naturally know what he knows. Lu Muan's mind turned around. She was not disgusted by the fact that several major forces were secretly competing to distribute benefits. After all, where there are people, there are struggles. Don't worry, Hall Master, I will do my best and I won't let you down. Lu Muan's eyes burst into a radiance of self-confidence and publicity, which was surprisingly bright. Okay, Rong Liao liked Lu Muan's self-confident energy. Now start your first mission to become a core disciple of the Central Hall in the Mercenary Union. After completing the task, the reward will be very generous. Rong Liao cast a meaningful smile at Lu Muan. The opportunity is very rare, you take good care of it. I will. My evil imperial wife is too arrogant, trash against the world, BlackBelly evil wife is too arrogant. Author, Lan by Gezi. Chapter 717. After Lu Muan left the 3rd floor, her mental power penetrated into the task jade slip to check. Both ordinary disciples and core disciples in the Central Hall will accept a mission every once in a while, and they can get rewards for completing the mission. But if the mission fails 3 times in a row, the core disciples will be reduced to ordinary disciples, and ordinary disciples will be asked to leave the Central Hall. This kind of rule can also be understood. If you want to enjoy resources that are not available outside, you must have matching qualifications, otherwise the Mercenary Union will not become a top force, but a shelter. Your mission is about the Comprehension Tower, Mo Yan said lazily, lying on Lu Muan's shoulder. Lu Muan replied, well, the minimum requirement for my quest is to reach the 7th floor of the 5 comprehension towers. After that, each time you climb to the 1st floor of a comprehension tower is the task completed, and it can be stacked. However, the rewards are also very rich. If I can reach the 9th floor, the few spiritual items you can see that can be exchanged for contribution points will be enough. Mo Yan's dull eyes overflowed with a little smile, and ripples appeared in his heart. This woman is always so warm-hearted. Okay, those few things are very important for me to hit the fusion realm, and I won't be polite to you. Mo Yan's heart was warm, but his mouth was very arrogant. Lu Muan gave him a funny look. When have you been polite to me? Mo Yan has a special place in her heart. Unlike Mingxiu, Mo Yan is like a relative in the depths of her heart, even more important than the relatives of the Lu family. Since she came to this world, Mo Yan has accompanied her all the way to the present. She will never forget the determination that Mo Yan had to sacrifice himself in order to save her in the land of inheritance. Mo Yan's lips raised an arc. Of course I won't be polite to you. Have you touched the barrier of fusion realm? Lu Muan asked. She found that since Mo Yan returned to the Guangling realm, his cultivation base had grown rapidly like a chicken blood, and it was almost blinding the eyes of those powerhouses. However, Jun Luoqin's cultivation has also grown rapidly, but it is still a step behind Mo Yan. It's almost there, Mo Yan said with a smile. You don't have to envy my fast cultivation speed. After all, I used to be a demon king who merged with the middle realm, and if I didn't have as much supply of medicinal pills as you, my speed would be as fast as Jun Luoqin. Almost. It is naturally impossible for Jun Luoqin to become a demon venerable in the demon domain. His previous cultivation was even higher than Mo Yan, but recently he has been huddled in a pendant. That's right. It's thanks to me that you are so powerful. Lu Muan raised her chin with a look of gratitude to me. Mo Yan stretched out his claws and gave her a light head. Look at how shy you are. Several spiritual pets such as Bingji have been received by Lu Muan in the Bell space. After all, it is too ostentatious and hateful to walk around with a few high-level spiritual pets. Stupid dragon hasn't gone back to find Mingxiu? Mo Yan asked. Lu Muan smiled helplessly and said, Stupid dragon is not going away. He said that Mingxiu asked him to protect me. He doesn't want to find his master because he doesn't want to go to him. Mo Yan also showed a bit of helplessness in his eyes. Don't look at Long Yao's handsome and ruthless appearance, like an adult man. In fact, he has not yet reached adulthood. After all, the lifespan of the dragon family is too long. Just stay if he likes to stay. Lu Muan smiled indifferently. This guy who cheats food and drink is quite reliable. Well, the royal blood of the stupid dragon is very pure, and the talent is also very powerful. It will definitely impact the fusion realm in the future, Mo Yan said. Lu Muan thought for a while and said, Mo Yan, when do you think we will go to the demon realm to take back the throne for you? She would never let go of anyone who dared to betray and bully her family. Mo Yan back then. There was a brilliance in Mo Yan's deep black eyes. It turned out that this woman had been thinking about avenging him. Our strength is too weak now. We will go after you reach the fusion realm. His eyes were cold, and the account of the year was about to be settled. He is no longer interested in regaining the throne, but he will not let go of any demon cultivator who betrayed him and almost killed him. Mo Yan, the one who betrayed you in the past wasn't a female goblin, right? Lu Muan laughed jokingly. Mo Yan was stunned for a moment, then rolled her eyes at her angrily. You think too much. He had never been moved or approached by any banshee, so how could he be betrayed? The only woman he has ever been close to is Lu Muan. The one who betrayed me was a very trusted subordinate. If it wasn't for me at the juncture of retreating and impacting the upper realm of fusion, they would not have succeeded. Mo Yan's words did not contain much concern. Since he met Lu Muan and got along closely with a group of spiritual pets, he really realized what a companion is, a companion who will not betray each other even under the temptation of the best interests. Well, then I have to practice quickly, and then we will go to the demon realm to kill the quartet, Lu Muan said with hooked lips. It is good. While chatting with Mo Yan, Lu Muan hurried towards the designated gathering place. When she arrived, the others also understood where the core disciples of the tower were waiting, and all turned their attention to her. She smiled helplessly at the three of Anyukian. It wasn't that she wanted to do something special, it was entirely the hall master who asked her to assign tasks. Standing in front of the disciples was an old man in green clothes with a kind face. After seeing Lu Muan, he did not blame him. He knew that she was called by the hall master. Little girl Lu, have you received the task? Lu Muan replied with a smile on her face, report to the seniors, I have already received the task. Well, Then let's go. The old man in green swiped his hand, and a golden rock in the Tianyuan realm landed in front of everyone. Come with me. The old man in Xingyi took the lead to get on Dapen. Yes, the others followed. Lum Wan found that the only person leading the team this time was the old man in Xingyi, and there were 16 disciples who got the quota for the comprehension pagoda, including her. This time, each faction will send 16 disciples to enter the Tower of Comprehension. If you know several techniques at the same time, you can try them one by one. The old man in Xingyi continued to face the crowd, but don't swallow the dates whole, you have the ability to do big things. Each comprehension tower has only one chance to enter in your life, so you must persist in comprehension in each tower until the moment when you are automatically discharged by the comprehension tower spirit. Don't be impatient. Disciple obeys. The Tower of Comprehension is opened once 100 years, and each opening is related to the leading distribution of our major forces in several secret realms. You do your best. After you come back with good performance, the Union will have its own separate reward stakes set again. The disciple must do his best to win glory for the Mercenary Union. Vice Hall Master, the last time the Comprehension Tower was opened, how was the ranking of our Mercenary Union? Xia Yexuan asked with a smile. Lum Wan saw a bit of helplessness in the eyes of the old man in Xingyi looking at Xia Yexuan. She was even more certain that Xia Yexuan's background must be related to that high-level mercenary union. My evil imperial wife is too arrogant, trash against the world, BlackBelly evil wife is too arrogant. Author, Lan by Gezi. Chapter 718. When Xia Yexuan asked, the other disciples were interested. The deputy hall master did not hide it and smiled. Last time the mercenary trade union was ranked 4th, 2 geniuses emerged from Danta and realized that the 9th floor of the 5 towers ranked 1st, and a genius appeared in the refining pavilion. At the 9th floor of the refining tower, I rank 2nd. 8 disciples of the Formation Alliance have realized the 8th floor, ranking 3rd, 7 disciples of our mercenary union have realized the 8th floor and ranked 4th, and only 6 disciples of the Beast Master Guild have realized the 8th floor. 5th. Hearing this result, the disciples who were selected were a little disappointed, and they had a lot of expectations. They hope that they can break the 4th place last time and let the ranking of the mercenary union be mentioned. Lum Wan lowered her eyes and pondered. Zhongzhou is indeed a place where geniuses are springing up like bamboo shoots, but there are so many people from the younger generation of the 5 major forces who have realized the 8th floor or above. If the geniuses of other forces were to comprehend a tower, it would not be too bad. Along the way, many disciples sat cross-legged and closed their eyes to cultivate, and some who had a good relationship would chat quietly and quietly. Their attitude towards Lum Wan was quite friendly. A day later, they arrived at a vast plain. From time to time, there would be low-level monsters wandering around. After finding the golden rock in the sky, they all fled everywhere. After Dapen landed on a dense grassy place in the plain, the group jumped down. At this time, other forces also came one after another with their disciples. Haha, Deputy Hall Master Wan, you are the one who led the team this time, a middle-aged man with thick eyebrows and big eyes said with a smile. Vice Palace Master Wan smiled gently. It's rare for you to lead the Array Alliance this time, Lao Xiao. Then he turned his head and said to the group of disciples, you set out a place to rest, it's not yet time to open. Yes. Lum Wan and his party found a place to rest not far away. The disciples of other forces were the same, and the high-level people gathered together to chat. Mu Yan, our formation materials are ready, and Yukian said in a low voice. It is very high-end and expensive to collect materials that can arrange the 8th rank formation, and it took all 3 of them to find them for a month before they could barely get them together. Lum Wan smiled and said, I'll help you set up when the comprehension tower is completed and go back. Okay. And Yukian thought for a while and asked, we invite an 8th grade artifact refiner to refine the array, what are the requirements? Several people didn't know that Lum Wen was also an artifact refiner. They thought that her array was made by Ming practice. After all, the news that the 9th prince was an 8th rank array master and an 8th rank artifact refiner was well known. No, I'll make it myself, Lum Wen said. I still need to record several restrictions on the array, so the combination will be more perfect. If they usually want to ask her to help set up the array, they not only need to find the materials themselves, but they also need to find someone to refine the array equipment themselves. However, after the palace master's suggestion that day, she decided not to relax too much about the refining tools. All three of Anyukian's arrays needed 8th rank, which was just for her to practice. The previous set of 8th grade spirit gathering array was refined for her by Mingxiu. What? The three exclaimed in unison. Others cast their eyes on them in confusion. After a while, Xia Yexuan asked, Mu Yan, are you already an 8th grade artifact refiner? Not yet, Lum Wen shook her head. Just when the three of them were about to breathe a sigh of relief, she continued, but it's only one step away. After coming out of the comprehension tower, you should be able to break through to the 8th rank artifact refiner. The three of them twitched the corners of their mouths. This woman was indeed a pervert. Xia Xuanyi smiled bitterly and said, I'm best at refining weapons, but now I'm only a 7th rank weapon refiner. You will be promoted to 8th rank if you don't make a sound. It's really shocking. No way. Who made me smarter than you? Lum Wen laughed and teased. Xia Yexuan rolled his eyes. You won. Anyukian and Chu 11 are also very speechless. Lum Wen and Mingxiu are indeed a perfect match. They are the same. Mu Yan, a lot of senior brothers and sisters have been asking me about you recently. Anyukian reminded. They are very interested in your spirit gathering array. Yeah. Not only that, but the two elders in the central hall often go around your palace for research. If you weren't in retreat, you would have to harass you often, Xia Yexuan said. It doesn't matter, anyway, they will get the exact news after 3 spirit gathering formations are arranged for you. Lum Wen smiled indifferently. That's true. It will be difficult for you not to be famous by then. The next day, as soon as the sun rose, the leaders of several major forces immediately stood up and each took out a small tower the size of a slap. The 5 small towers are of different colors, exuding a very subtle glow. After a while, the heaven and earth continued to make loud noises, and 5 beams of light descended from the sky. There was an extra barrier in front of them, and the 5 small towers instantly merged with the barrier. After a while, the barrier naturally separated, and 5 majestic and quaint towers appeared in front of everyone. Come in with us, an old man in white instructed the disciples indifferently. Yes. When everyone entered the barrier, the separated barrier was naturally bridged. The old man in white was the deputy hall master of the central hall of the Dan Pagoda. He looked at the disciples without any waves and said, this is one of the keys to the foundation of our 5 major forces, the Comprehension Pagoda. I don't know if you have noticed, but time here stands still. As soon as his voice fell, the expressions of others changed one after another. After exploring, they found that time in this independent world did not flow forward. The stillness of time is only useful relative to the Comprehension Pagoda, because there is no way to practice here, and the Comprehension Pagoda can only be used for comprehension, but it can save you time. For example, some disciples need hundreds of years to comprehend the first level, and some disciples need more time, or even 1,000 years, but if time is still, you can complete 100 or 1,000 years of practice in just 1.5 years. So this is the most precious place in the Comprehension Tower. Each of you comprehends in the Comprehension Tower. The time outside is about a year, and there is no time limit in the Comprehension Tower. So make good use of this opportunity, and if you can comprehend a little bit more, this is the real big chance for you this time. Hearing his words, the disciples present, including Lum Wen, were shocked. No wonder so many core disciples broke their heads and wanted to get a spot in the comprehension tower. The time here is actually still, and the 5 major forces can cultivate so many high-level magicians, which is absolutely equivalent to a cheat. However, before entering the comprehension tower, you must make an oath to ensure that the secrets of the comprehension tower will not be revealed after you go out, or you will die from inner demons in your future cultivation. The old man in white swept the disciples with a stern gaze. This is the secret of our 5 major forces, and you have no right to object. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. My evil imperial wife is too arrogant, trash against the world. BlackBelly evil wife is too arrogant. Author, Lan by Gezi. Chapter 719. The disciples present were asked to swear immediately before they could react from the shock. All the disciples who can win the quota of the comprehension tower are naturally smart people. Such a request is not excessive. After all, if other top forces know about this, it will not be a problem. After the disciples finished their vows, the old man in white swept away with a whisk, and an invisible force descended on everyone. Lum Wan didn't move. This was a power to block the heart oath, and it was also a means to protect secrets. For example, if any of them go out, it is impossible for someone to use soul search and other methods to obtain the secret of the comprehension tower, because this memory has been blocked by the power of the heart vow, even the powerhouse who integrates the heaven and the human realm. Unable to snoop. It is no wonder that before entering the Tower of Comprehension, all the disciples who have something similar to a memory crystal ball must temporarily hand in, and the spiritual pet must also stay outside. Okay, there are 5 comprehension pagodas in total: the Pill Tower, the Refining Pagoda, the Formation Pagoda, the Talisman Pagoda, and the Beast Control Pagoda. You can freely choose the order of the comprehension pagodas. However, the old man suggests that if you only master 1 or 2 spells, it is best not to enter other towers of comprehension and try to learn other spells. After all, people's energy is limited, except for individuals who are extremely talented. Learning a few magic laws at the same time will distract their energy, but because of the small loss of big ones, in the end, one of the magic methods that they are best at can't be improved by leaps and bounds. The first floor of each comprehension tower is actually the first floor to open the magic. As long as you have the corresponding Yuan Li attribute, you can get started, but it is difficult to learn the essence. The 5 major forces actually do not recommend that disciples master more than 2 skills s technique. Of course, with the exception of Lum Wan, after all, except for her artifact refining, which has not reached the 8th rank, the others are all 8th rank. This is the reason why many core disciples of the 5 major forces are specialized even after entering the comprehension tower and comprehending. Impossible. Yes, disciple, keep that in mind. You enter any comprehension tower to adjust your heart to the best state of ethereal spirit. After completing the first level of comprehension, the tower spirit will spontaneously transfer you to the next level. If you can't go any further, you will be sent out by the tower spirit when you reach the limit. If it is teleported out, if you don't enter other comprehension towers and comprehend, you will directly walk out of the barrier, and we will guard outside. Don't try to enter the same tower of comprehension for the second time. It is absolutely impossible to enter, so all good things follow the fate, don't force it. The old man in white said all the points to be reminded and paid attention to. Okay, now you each choose an enlightenment tower to go in. Yes. The first comprehension tower that Lum Wan chose was not alchemy, but a formation tower. Her strongest technique was formation, and it would be better to have a good start. After all the disciples present entered the comprehension tower, several high-level officials also exited the space and waited outside the barrier. And a stone house was built on the top of a mountain in Zhengzhou with beautiful scenery and abundant spiritual energy. At this time, the top of the 5 major forces was sitting in the stone house. Not only were there the tower owner of Danta, the pavilion owner of the refining pavilion, the leader of the Formation Alliance, the president of the Beast Masters Union, and the president of the Mercenary Union, but also 5 old people with restrained breaths like mortals. And the high-level executives of the 5 major forces are extremely respectful to these 5 people. When a group of disciples on the grassland entered the Comprehension Tower, an old man with a faint breath waved his hand at will, and the spar wall opposite them revealed the situation in the forbidden area of the Comprehension Tower. "Old Wu, Lum Wan was dug up by you, shouldn't you contribute a few pots of spirit wine to drink?" The pavilion master of the item refining pavilion looked at the president of the Mercenary Union with a half-smiling smile. "While playing, I don't even have enough to drink myself." Wu Goi gave him a long white look. President Wu did exchange more than 10 pots of 8th-grade spirit wine from Lum Wan with spirit stones and spirit grasses. "What Lum Wan? What spirit wine?" one of the 5 old men asked with a light smile. "That's what the ancestors are like." The pavilion owner of the item refining pavilion immediately shared Lum Wan's performance in the alchemy competition and the fact that the 8th-grade spirit sommelier was dug up by the mercenary trade union president. The old man showed some interest in his eyes, looked at President Wu and said, "You are full of praise for each of the 8th-grade spirit wines, take them out and let us taste them." Although the other 4 old men did not speak, their expressions also indicated that they wanted to taste it. President Wu had a smile on his face, but he could not wait to beat the pavilion master of the refining pavilion. He was forced to take out a pot of each kind of spirit wine, and there were 5 pots in total. "A few ancestors please." He condescendingly poured a glass of spirit wine for the 5 ancestors. Although the people here are all strong people who integrate the heaven and human realm, there are differences. These 5 are the ancestors of the 5 major forces. Each of them has lived for more than 10,000 years, and their cultivation has reached the late stage or even the peak of the fusion of heaven and human realm, and their strength is unfathomable. You must know that at their level, even if they are only 1 level apart, the difference in strength is very large. The 5 people are completely introverted. If they walk in the mortal world, no one will recognize them as sword masters. This is a realm of fusion of heaven and human. The unity of man and nature is the eternal pursuit of every sword master. The ancestor of the mercenary union took the lead and took a sip from the glass, and then a faint smile appeared on his lips. "Not bad." Hearing his words, the other 4 ancestors also took a sip of their wine glasses and said with a smile, "It's really good." At their level, they usually drink 9th-grade spirit wine, and 8th-grade spirit wine can rarely be eaten, but the spirit wine brewed by Lum Wan is rich and mellow, with an overflowing aroma, and the taste makes them all like it. Up. "Who is Lum Wan in the Comprehension Tower?" the ancestor of the Mercenary Union asked slowly. President Wu immediately pointed to a stunning woman in purple in the Formation Tower and said, "That's Lum Wan." The ancestor of the Mercenary Union continued to ask indifferently, "Didn't she say that she is an 8th-rank alchemist and wine master? Why did she run to the Formation Tower?" Alchemy masters and spirit wine masters come from the same source, and it is normal to practice together, but the formation technique is far away. Ancestor, Lu girl is proficient in 5 techniques. I heard that among them, she is best at formations. Currently, she has been able to set up an 8th-grade spirit gathering formation. President Wu replied with a smile, with a hint of words in his words. A bit frustrating. The other old men were slightly surprised. President Wu naturally couldn't lie, which meant that Lum Wan was indeed a 5 specialist. "It's an interesting little guy." The ancestor of the Mercenary Union smiled with half-closed eyes. "Look at her performance in the Comprehension Tower," the ancestor of the Formation Alliance said with a smile with great interest. "At this age, he has become an 8th-grade array mage and can set up a very difficult spirit gathering array. He is somewhat looking forward to this little guy's performance in the Formation Tower." Others have the same idea. Lum Wan, who was comprehending in the formation tower, did not know that she was being targeted by many strong men at this time. My evil imperial wife is too arrogant, trash against the world, BlackBelly evil wife is too arrogant author, Land by Gezi. Chapter 720. There is a difference between the comprehension tower of Tianling continent being a fake and the real comprehension tower of Guangling world. Lum Wan found that the content from the first floor to the 7th floor is much richer, and many of the formations and restrictions of the side are also demonstrated in the video. She had already comprehended the 7th floor when she was in the Tianling continent, so the time for comprehension under the 8th floor was extremely fast. When she reached the 7th floor, the tallest disciple who had chosen the formation tower had just reached the 4th floor. After stepping into the 8th floor, it was still an endless darkness. She continued to move forward in the direction of her own judgment. After the strength of her cultivation was improved and her bloodline was stimulated, her original heart became more determined, and the projected images soon appeared. Every time she went to the image, she would look at it obsessively. When the image disappeared, she would not rush forward. Instead, she sat cross-legged and settled down, thinking about the real meaning of the image during the demonstration. She spent about a few years in the comprehension tower on the 8th floor to complete the final level, and was then teleported to the 9th floor. Of course, although she counted the time as a few years, in the tower of comprehension, the time from the outside world is still, so she didn't spend much time calculating it from the outside world. In the stone house on the top of the mountain, the high-level executives of the 5 top forces watched the images on the spar, and their main focus at this time was Lum Wan. This girl took so much time to step into the 9th floor, and the talent of this formation is too heaven-defying. The leader of the formation alliance sighed while looking at the crystal wall. The President Wu opposite him smiled and said, "Haha, I knew this girl would definitely understand the 9th level." In the past few sessions of the comprehension tower of the Mercenary Union, there had been no disciples who stepped into the 9th floor for hundreds of years, and Lum Wan did not disappoint him. "I don't know if she can pass the 9th floor, said the tower owner of the Danta. The 9th floor is no longer the exercise of patience and mind. It also combines the true meaning of the mystery of the elements and integrates it into the formation and prohibition. It is difficult to break through, Danta's ancestor said. "I think she still has hope," the ancestor of the Mercenary Union said with a light smile. You'll know when you look at it. The interest in the eyes of the ancestors of the Formation Alliance was even deeper. After reaching the 9th floor, the road ahead is no longer pitch black, but an endless circle of light masks. Each layer of mask is constructed by formation or prohibition. If you want to go further, you can only move forward after cracking. Lum Wan was not discouraged when she saw such a scene, but instead there were strands of joy in her eyes. She liked to study and decipher the formation and restraint the most. So she took out the natal array disk and began to crack it layer by layer. Sometimes when encountering difficult formations or prohibitions, she would sit down and ponder for a long time, or rehearse countless times in her mind. And every time a layer of formation or ban is cracked, there will also be a video streaming playback, which also contains a hint of cracking the next layer. In this way, Lum Wan broke through the formation all the way, and gained a lot. Although the formation tower is based on its own formation level to set the difficulty of cracking, the 9-rank formation began to appear in the image. Lum Wan stayed in the formation tower for decades. When the last layer of the ban was broken, her whole body was enveloped by a soft yellow halo, and the elements in her body became as if they could form their own rules. Then, the circle of circles of light swept over her and landed directly at the beginning of the 10th floor. At this time, the tallest person in the array comprehension tower or other comprehension towers has only comprehended the 7th floor. She actually stepped into the 10th floor, the pavilion master of the refining pavilion said with wide eyes. Haha. President Wu couldn't help laughing a few times. This girl's comprehension ability is really strong. Not only is the comprehension ability strong, but the hands-on ability is stronger. The elder of the Formation Alliance side, this girl's talent for formation is the first person I have ever seen in my life. It is a pity to stay in the mercenary union. He is a 9th rank senior formation mage himself, and is only one step away from the legendary 10th rank. If Lu Muan was not dug up by the mercenary union, he would have taken him as a direct disciple. How can it be a pity? Our mercenary union will provide her with suitable training resources and methods, which is better than being trapped in your specialties. This old man advocates free play. The ancestor of the mercenary union disagreed. If Lu Muan involved all 5 techniques, but only one of them was specialized or particularly outstanding, he would not agree with her continuing to study other techniques, so it would be easy to lose watermelon and pick up sesame for dual purposes. But judging from the current situation, Lu Muan might be able to specialize in 5 items. Such a peerless genius, let him perform his best freely. It's not that your mercenary union started too fast, otherwise the old man can let her play freely. The ancestor of the Formation Alliance gave him a white look, and he felt extremely regretful that such a peerless genius of formation was lost. The more he thought about it, the more he felt a pity. He said with a smile, "By the way, why don't I accept her as a direct disciple, although she joined the mercenary union, but it has no essential influence. After all, we the 5 forces are advancing and retreating together." "As beautiful as you think." The other ancestors all smiled, obviously not agreeing. "Keep watching and see how far her other comprehension towers can go," said the ancestor of the Beast Control Association who had not spoken. When the others heard his words, they couldn't help but think deeply, and they thought of a question together. If this girl's 5 towers can climb to the 9th or 10th floor, it is worthy of us to cultivate together. After all, it has not been long before the overseas battlefield has been opened. The ancestor of the refining pavilion said with deep eyes. "Yes, if she can break through the 9th floor, the joint plan will be implemented. The elites of our 5 major forces will be selected by the law to enter the battlefield outside the territory, but we cannot withstand too much loss." Formation Alliance, the ancestor said cautiously. "I agree," Danta's ancestor responded. The ancestors of the Beast Control Tower and the Mercenary Union also nodded, "I agree." They reached an agreement, and now it is up to Lu Muan to get this big chance. As soon as Lu Muan stepped into the 10th floor, he felt a pressure coming, and every time he took a step, he felt extremely difficult. There are still many apertures in front, but the number is several times less than that of the 9th floor, but the power emitted is much greater. She moved forward step by step, and the pressure approaching her body was like a mountain, which made her a little breathless, and the pressure also contained the rules of elements. She closed her eyes, emptied her mind, and removed the elemental power that she resisted in her body. It was much easier to move forward by instinct. After reaching the first aperture, she opened her eyes, took out the natal array, and began to ponder and decipher it. Every step was carefully observed, and every detail was repeatedly deduced and calculated.